You tuned into the right place. Welcome to the rain. Golden Cuey. H2.0. Yeah. Yeah. You're looking for a diamond, found a treasure in the rough. Tired of all the noise, cause you finally had enough. I'm here to build a movement on a mission for the nation. Dropping gems of knowledge, killing all the hesitation. We fighting for the truth, yeah, we fighting for what's right. Building unity and shining up a brand new light. It's a variety channel, but the vision's crystal clear. Pushing us all forward, conquering the doubt and fear.
Welcome to the Queendom, it's 2.0 on your screen, where the content's real and smart and funny in between. This is more than just a stream, it's a platform for the change. Time to elevate the game and rearrange. If you're ready for a vibe that you can feel and trust, joining in the movement is a definite must.
This ain't just another channel talking smack behind the screen. It's a spotlight for the creators, building up a better scene. Spreading radical love, that's the message in the code. Helping everybody carry up a heavy load. From social justice issues to the laughter that we need. Planting seeds of progress, watch them grow from just a seed. This is authentic, this is raw, this is everything you saw. Welcome to the battle that is truly being fought.
Ooh, so come with your respect and see the real effect. Cause I protect my own right here on the throne. Don't make me envy. Unleash the dragon.
Subscribe, ring that notification bell. Yeah, you don't wanna miss a thing. Welcome to the family. Yeah.
I thought we were sleeping, but the spirit is moving. One weekend, only lost the Fox in the DHS. Yeah. She was playing checkers while we dealing with this mess. Alex Pretti in the street, nurse with illegal heat. Hosted in a holster, but they killed him for the feast. Stretching to the cities, call it Metropolis War. They're knocking down the Constitution on the bedroom door. GOP is split, master screaming, what's the price? Juana Luma's on the stand, yeah, she's skating on the ice. Oh! Can I get a witness? They stripped the bill, they removed the clause. Crockett in the room, she's following the laws. Can I get a time? Yeah, he's feeling on the floor. They want the total search, we're coming with the best. Trump firing the chiefs while the streets are seeing red. They want the total search, we're coming with the best. Trump firing the chiefs while the streets are seeing red. Senior, yeah, he dropped the bomb. Said bringing home an in is a crisis never calm. Gestapo Grapofino, yeah, he's heading for the gate. Ellison is smiling while the judges pass the fate. Not credible, they said, yeah, he lied under the low. Trying to lock the Chatter City low. Don't sit in the goal, the rule resistance, persistence. To wait to the left, unlikely alleys fighting back against the state that's about to death. Rise up! Trump
Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? What's up? It's your girl Golden. I'm back again with another live, y'all. We got a few more things to get into, of course. Some political updates, y'all. Um, it is getting a little redundant. I know that. I know it. It's getting a little boring. We're gonna do some fun things over here, so don't worry. I'm gonna come up with some content for some fun, some happiness, some joy, some laughter. I know a lot of this political stuff, it can get you down, but we want to keep our heads up despite it all anyway. But I hope everybody is having a wonderful Tuesday. It's about 2:14 p.m. here Eastern time in the United States and the Carolinas. And again, it is cold outside, but the sun is shining. So it's a pretty day. It's just chilly. So I hope you guys are having a good day in whatever respectful time zone you're in, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night for you. I hope it is a good one. Y'all, let's go ahead and get right into it. So I got a few things we're going to cover today, y'all. It's been a lot going on, okay? So we are witnessing right now a total meltdown of the Metro Surge strategy this week. The fallout from Alex Pretti unaliving in Minneapolis has done something we haven't seen in years. It has completely cracked the Republican base. We're starting off with reports on Kristi Noem, who is now facing a massive impeachment resolution from over 130 House members. Even her allies at Fox News are starting to question the domestic terrorist label she slapped on a nurse who was on a viral video, and that video shows that he was tackled and disarmed before he ever even took a shot. The narrative is falling apart so fast that Trump has already started firing top ICE officials, trying to find a fall guy before the impeachment threats reach the Oval Office. But the most chilling development comes from the former senior FBI official, who has just issued a massive warning. They are calling it an American crisis. If the administration's only solution is to bring in Tom Homan to clean up the mess, remember, Homan himself was recently under the microscope for that $50,000 FBI sting operation. And critics say bringing in a hardliner to handle a city already on edge is like throwing gasoline on fire. Meanwhile, in the halls of Congress, Jasmine Crockett is absolutely dismantling James Comer. As a 2026 Senate candidate, she isn't playing games. She's calling out the botched Epstein file release and demanding to know where federal agents think they have a license to unalive people on American soil. But while she's fighting in committee, a terrifying new DHS funding bill just surfaced. Reports are confirmed that protections preventing the deportation of U.S. citizens were stripped from that bill. They are literally clearing the legal path for mistaken identity to become a permanent part of a federal operation. And finally, the man they call Gestapo Greg, Border Patrol Chief Bovino, is officially being chased out of Minnesota after the federal judge called him not credible. His exit is a huge win for local leaders like AG Keith Ellison, but don't think the fight is over, as constitutional conservatives like Thomas Massey joined the outcry over Second Amendment violations. The Trump administration immigration plan is facing a full-blown civil war from the right. We'll be breaking it down all in this live today. So y'all, let's get into our first coverage. And of course, y'all know I like to play the content from a coverage from this content creator, which is also a comedian. So we get a little bit, y'all, of easing into a lot of the seriousness by hearing some of the facts, but doing it with a little bit of comedy dose in there as well, which sometimes we really need in these hard, trying times. So let's go ahead and get into this first video, y'all. I'm going to put it up on the screen for y'all. The first one we're going to be talking about is going to be Kristi Noem, okay? And we're going to be talking about Fox News. So, Fox News has been almost hand in hand with Trump and all of the people on his team. But even this, they cannot deny. And so Fox News had a lot to say about what has been recently happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so let's go ahead and get into that video, y'all. Let me skip this ad. And this is a video that we'll be watching from none other than Reese Waters. Excellent, excellent content. And it gives us a bit of, facts with comedy. We'll get into it in just a moment. All right, here we go, y'all. Let me get this up on the stage for y'all to see. Just a second. This thing is moving slow yet again. All right, let's listen to this report together, y'all.
Investigation, we'll be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony.
Is that your final answer? That's how impeded a law enforcement operation is inflict maximum damage. We can make the jump to inflict maximum damage. That's interesting. How would you characterize what happened with that dog? You just impeding his life operations? Is that what you would go with? Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. And don't forget to like the video. I'm Reese Waters, and this is Street Politics. Hey, Kristi Noem, I want to show you something. Oh, I promise it's not the actual footage, because we already know you won't watch that.
We extend our love, support, and heartfelt sympathies to Alex's family, friends, and our community during this difficult time. Please join us in honoring the life and memory of Alex Pretti with a moment of silence.
Yeah, you heard it. You heard it. It don't sound like the spin is working. It don't sound. Imagine that. Kristi Noem got a credibility problem. Somehow, just repeatedly repeating the same statement ad nauseum don't seem to be hitting like it used to.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic
handgun.
The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
Now, certainly for myself, and I know a great number of subscribers and members right here on the channel, that's not our first rodeo when it comes to people saying you gonna believe me or your lying eyes. Oh no, we've been here.
Dear white people, it's insane, isn't it? It's insane. Watching the state come in your neighborhood, come in your communities, murder people, and then tell the public that that person was dangerous. When you saw it with your own eyes. Could you imagine how much more crazy it would be if one day you looked up and the video evidence was just gone? It would make you feel like you're a crazy person. It would be surreal. How absurd would that be? To see it with your own eyes and then go home. And then there's the government on the television telling people there's no war in Ba Sing Se. Isn't it insane when you saw that this person was and then could you imagine having people be like, I don't know. I know they just killed that person, but he did. in 2011, he did have a run-in with the police and he had a little weed. It would be crazy, wouldn't it? Over and over and over and over and over again. This has been happening in our communities under Democratic leadership, under Republican leadership, under a black president, under a white president, and it is enough to make you feel like you're going crazy.
But of course, they're very quick to find specific individuals where the criminal justice system was unfair. It's not as if they can't conceive of impropriety when it comes to the criminal justice system. They just pick and choose their individuals. Isn't that right? Donald Trump and Tina Peters.
Do you think the chances are that you and or Donald Trump are in prison a year or two from now?
Well, I'll tell you, if I thought I was going to prison, I would probably be on the beach somewhere, but relaxing. It's just like with Donald Trump's indictment. My indictment has nothing to do with the facts.
Hey, MAGA, yeah, y'all on your own. Yeah, the lady who won the magnetic mattress. That's what we going. We're using all of our capital after denying it for years, but that's not as crazy as the billionaire. I can tell you that right now. Now, as far as Fox News is concerned, surprisingly, they actually did come to their senses at some point. Yeah, it was 10:30 in the morning. It was like around the same time that BET used to run Uncut. That's the time it was Fox News Uncut. And yes, they used us to do it.
Streets of Minneapolis today. What is first and foremost in your mind?
Well, John, I got to tell you, I've watched that videotape for at least about, let's say, 100 times because I knew I was going to be coming on with you and I wanted to speak as accurate as I can. And I do believe that there needs to be a complete investigation. I was taken back by the White House, who initially put out what I defined as misrepresentation of what took place there when you look at the video. It was said that Mr. Pretti was banishing a weapon. Well, he was not banishing a weapon. Yes, he did have a weapon. It was said that by the White House that Mr. Pretti attacked those agents. No, he did not attack those agents. And one of the White House individuals called Mr. Pretti a domestic terrorist. I find this man is dead. He has a family. And to go out and call him a domestic terrorist without giving any more information is just unacceptable. And then, John, when I looked at the video, what you saw was an agent pushing a woman aside, Mr. Pretti getting sprayed, them jumping on top of Mr. Pretti. And this is something that our audience should see with their own eyes. You can see where one of the agents actually physically takes Mr. Peretti's gun. And that is before he shot. And then all of a sudden he shot, there's a pause, and there are more bullets that are shot in his direction. So that investigation, what I'm asking is that there be a complete and thorough and transparent investigation, John, not only by the federal agencies, but also by the state and local investigators also working together.
Why are women everywhere choosing Abby X, the new?
Now, can you imagine what that casting conversation was like? It was like, hey, we need to actually get some information out to the people. We can't just have people repeating the same statement ad nauseum, or else we will lose the rights to call ourselves news and information. So like the whole fair and balanced thing can be way out of whack. So we got to get somebody to say something truthful on this platform today. But hopefully somebody that they can just we got any the other side of the brown paper bag. Get the paper brown. Take that paper bag into the green room. See what we got down there. No, because they'll see him and they'll just be like, oh, here come Black Lives Matter. They don't even care who he is. Yeah. Same way they do Harris Faulkner. Now, at this point in our lives, we've seen so much shameless pandering from Kristi Noem, like absolutely shameless. And not all of it even involved Corey Lewandowski, okay? At this point, we have seen disgusting behavior from Kristi Noem. This one was worse.
And it is early, we know, in this investigation into the shooting death of Alex Pretti. But I want to have you walk our audience through what exactly you know. So you said last night, it looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. Did he say, I'm going to kill you, or did he leave a note? How do you know that was his intent?
You know, part of this investigation will be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony.
Is that your final answer? That's how impeded a law enforcement operation is inflict maximum damage. We can make the jump to inflict maximum damage. That's interesting. How would you characterize what happened with that dog? You were just impeding his life operations? Is that what you would go with?
When he did that, interacting with those agents, when they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process.
Hey, Kristi Noem, you gotta delete the J6 footage from your phone. Because it's all popping out of that. Like, this is, you know, now you're going to tell me he tried to run the officers over with his car? Is that what you want to tell me?
Officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives and the people around them. And that's how this tragedy unfolded, and we hope we never see it again. It grieves me to think about what his family is going through, but it also grieves me what's happening to these law enforcement officers every day out on the streets with the violence that they face.
It grieves me to see what his family is going through as I reflexively call him a domestic terrorist on this propaganda network repeatedly and wants to talk about I told you there's worse. When it comes to, don't put no governors on her. There is because, you know, we would have stopped when it came to we would have stopped a long time ago. She could always go further. That's what we learned about Kristi Noem. Now, here's something I didn't mention in my original video, because one of the things I said was, can you imagine a scenario where Trump and Kristi Noem would have reacted in any other way? We've seen how quickly they are to jump out in front of it, and we see their willingness to invent whole scenarios in order to protect their agenda before any investigation has even been done. And in the case of Renee Good, refused to even do an investigation. And already in the case of Alex Pretti, refused to allow investigators to do an investigation of their own, to the point where they're actually getting sued. Now, here is the thing. If we cannot even imagine a world or scenario where you would have reacted in any other way, what is the value of your reaction? What is the value of your reaction that we know would have come regardless? And apparently, I'm not the only one in DC who can see 2 + 2 = 4. Trump, I said 4. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 + 2. And you was trying to do tariffs. CNN reports multiple DHS officials are furious over how Kristi Noem handled the Alex Pretti shooting. After watching the video, officials say her public claims don't match what Americans can see with their own eyes. One DHS official told CNN the department needs a law enforcement leader not a sicko fan. The cracks are forming inside the machine. I tell you what, Kristi Noem, I will do you this solid. Obviously, I see you as a sicko fan, but like most sicko fans, you will do the thing you have to do to curry favor with the person who is the sole reason why not only you have this job, but you have any level of responsibility beyond dog walker, because we know that's not something that you could handle. So that being the case, it would make sense that you would repeatedly carry the water for Donald Trump. However, that comes at the cost of us viewing you and everything that you do exactly that way. You know, it would be like a goat knowing that you could take them out at any point in time and then wondering how credible their account is or what happened to their friend.
More on the backlash after the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti by immigration agents in Minneapolis, as videos are contradicting the account that is coming from the federal government tonight. There's mourners that are paying respects to the ICU nurse on the ground in Minneapolis, as there's growing criticism coming from inside the Department of Homeland Security, where multiple DHS officials tell my colleague CNN's Priscilla Alvarez they're furious with how the agency and Secretary Kristi Noem is handling the shooting. Some of those sentiments have been fueled by what we heard from Secretary Noem earlier in a swift defense of the federal officers involved, and also her claims about Pretti himself. Priscilla joins me now. And Priscilla, what are you hearing exactly from these officials? What did they make of what they're hearing from Secretary Noem?
Well, Caitlin, as they've had more time to absorb the videos that have been circulating on social media and that the American public has also been looking at and dissecting, they have grown more frustrated and more concerned, not only about the shooting incident, but also the public response by the Department of Homeland Security. These are officials who are keenly aware that they risk even more reputational harm, which affects them in their operations and could also have long-term consequences that they are going to have to wrestle with in the years to come. Now, of course, this is all stemmed really from what they've seen online and what they've heard from the Trump administration. And in my conversations, they simply can't square, just as many other people who've observed this can't, what happened in that shooting incident and what the Department of Homeland Security Secretary has been saying. As you mentioned, Caitlin, she swiftly defended the agent yesterday and this morning did much of the same. Take a listen.
Now, let's keep in mind, those that are employed at DHS at this particular point in time understand what job they took or decided to continue to push through. This ain't Kristi Noem's first rodeo or Donald Trump's first rodeo when it comes to wild, outlandish claims. But we've reached a point, sufficient point where even these people that were willing to rock up to this point cannot continue to deny reality to this degree. And it's even infected Fox News.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want, with Wix?
What can you tell us?
Great to be with you, Maria. And look, Secretary Noem stated it perfectly. You do not get to attack law enforcement officials in this country without any repercussions. You do not get to do that in Minnesota, LA, or anywhere else.
Ooh, Maria, I know you was gonna cook, but I got something for you. Yeah, this was him about Kyle Rittenhouse. Offered his own legal services.
We're raising money. If you have a case, we will review it for free, and we will cut the check to the lawyer to file your defamation case and get your day in court. If Kyle Rittenhouse's team is listening, or your audience is tweeting, this is what Fight with Cash is for. We will help Kyle Rittenhouse's defamation cases. We will pay for them by raising money so he can clear his name like I'm clearing mine.
And just in case this wasn't already out of pocket enough for Kash Patel, this was an appearance, one of multiple that he made on the podcast of a gentleman he claims not to know in front of Congress. That Kash Patel, that FBI, that credibility.
And the interagency is leading the charge out there. We've already arrested with the interagency those that violated the FACE Act and impeded a peaceful prayer in church. We've already just last night arrested 4 more individuals involved in the damage of government property that we saw the videos of online. We've arrested other individuals who've made threats to law enforcement online. So we are not messing around.
Oh, what, you got your jacket? You saying you got your FBI jacket? You don't got to borrow that, ladies? Is that what you mean by we not messing around? Huh? Because I imagine you wasn't messing around with the Charlie Kirk thing. We see how that went. So what does we not messing around? That means you're not using a private jet to go see country shows? Like what's that?
It doesn't have to be in person. If you threaten law enforcement officials or civilians, we are going to come find you. And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence. So we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest. We're raising money. If you have a case, we will review it for free, and we will cut the check to the lawyer to file your defamation case and get your day in court. If Kyle Rittenhouse's team is listening, or your audience is tweeting, this is what Fight with Cash is for. We will help Kyle Rittenhouse's defamation cases. We will pay for them by raising money so he can clear his name like I'm clearing mine. And you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary. And I trust Secretary Noem's leadership.
Wait a minute. Did you just sit up here? Did you just sit up here and talk about you can't put your hands on and threaten and this, that, and the other thing? You sat up here and just attempted to taint the entire case when it comes to public perception. And then when asked the most basic of questions that underpins your entire premise, we got it. You know what I mean? The lab, and they got to do. I used to watch a lot of CSI back in the day, and the Miami one was crazy before, while Caruso was there. But Gil Grissom, I'm gonna let them handle it. You know what I mean? Yes. And by the way, just as I have already asserted, when we can't imagine a scenario where Kristi Noem or Donald Trump would have come out any other way, we also can't imagine a scenario whereby this investigation would lead to a place of accountability for ICE. So what does it mean? Like, what does it mean? I see you though, Maria Bartiromo. I saw you. Hey, I saw Comer walking aimlessly around. He don't know what to do with himself because he liked to protect Marjorie Taylor Greene. She ain't there for him no more. Cook him, would you?
Another individual is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. Let's be clear. We do not know if there was any pushback from this individual who was armed. We do not have evidence that he was waving a gun, doing anything to threaten Border Patrol. He had his phone and he was shooting. He was viewing and recording the incident. That's what he was doing, recording the incident. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction? And you are an elected official. What can you do about it?
Well, look, I don't think there's any question a majority of Americans want President Trump and ICE to go in and apprehend the criminal illegals. That's what President Trump campaigned on, and he's doing exactly what he said.
Hey, you sure, Comer? You sure? Because I just did a video last week where the majority of Americans want to abolish ICE. That's how badly this has been. I'll send it to you. I send you don't use email? That makes a lot of sense. That explains a lot of what I heard from you. You don't use computers at all, do you?
I look at what happened in Minneapolis versus what happened in Washington, D.C. When President Trump sent the National Guard into Washington, D.C., the Mayor Muriel Bowser, supported that. She worked, her local law enforcement worked with the president, and in a short period of time, they have really been successful in reducing the amount of crime in Washington, D.C. That was a big success. Fast forward to where we are in Minneapolis. We have a governor, an attorney general, and a mayor of Minneapolis who are getting people jacked up, trying to get them, convinced that this is, some type of illegal raid, that all their lives are threatened, and they've got all these white liberals coming in, trying to run over ICE, trying to, spray them and do everything to disrupt. And
they don't have an answer. That's the thing about a script. It doesn't lend itself to ad-libbing now, does it? They don't have an answer at all for the most basic questions to the premise that they have pushed out. And by the way, don't think you slick trying to take credit for a decrease in crime in DC, because again, if you refuse to acknowledge crime statistics and information on the way in, what does it mean on the way out? Y'all did that. Oh, yeah. And by the way, you also have the issue, because as we saw towards the end of last year, where some people sought their life raft away from the sinking ship that was MAGA, you have them to contend with as well. Yes, James Comer, I'm talking about Marjorie. Put your shirt back on. While you are being gaslit by the political industrial complex all over social media and the news telling you what you're supposed to be outraged about, think about this. Republicans funded the refugee program by nearly $6 billion of your taxpayer dollars in the DHS appropriations bill, even though you've been losing your mind about paying for refugee funding while you discovered all the Somalia fraud. And the DHS appropriations bill funds all of Homeland Security, including ICE. Now you've watched a shooting video probably over 30 times trying to figure out what happened while a near civil war is being fueled in Minnesota. But look past the hype and focus on the granular details. The DHS bill funds both ICE and refugee programs. The DHS bill funds doubling H-2B visas and deportations at the same time. Do you see how the uniparty in Washington funds both sides and then gaslights you and drives you to hate each other? It's all manufactured to drive your outrage, and that's how they make money. When the American people stop being baited into fighting each other, the American people will defeat the political industrial complex that divides us all, and we can work to truly put Americans first. Well, that was a whole, oh, there's more. The political industrial complex wants the Hunger Games. May the odds ever be in your favor. Well, I still haven't forgiven them to what happened to that little sister. I admit, she wasn't done. I unapologetically support the Second Amendment. Legally carrying a firearm is not the same as brandishing a firearm. I support Americans' First and Fourth Amendment rights. There is nothing wrong with legally, peacefully protesting and videoing. MAGA, consider it like this. We lost our minds when we watched Biden's FBI track down and aggressively carry out home invasions and arrests on peaceful J6ers who walked in the Capitol through open doors. Marjorie Taylor Greene. We got video of that too. Yeah, same way we got all your supersets. We got video, all that. Stop that. Imagine if one of our MAGA independent journalists or even just a MAGA supporter stood in the street outside a J6er's house while Biden's FBI carried out a law enforcement operation, home invasion, and arrest. Then Biden's FBI goes to the MAGA guy videoing it all and shoves a woman with him to the ground and sprays them with bear spray, then throws the MAGA guy to the ground as MAGA guy was trying to help the woman off the ground. Then Biden's FBI beats MAGA guy on the ground, disarms MAGA guy, and then shoots him dead. What would have been our reaction? Both sides need to take off their political blinders. You're all being incited into a civil war, yet none of it solves any of the real problems that we all face, and tragically, people are dying. Y'all gonna have to handle that. Y'all gonna have to handle that. Because she just putting logic and sense right out on the timeline for all the maggots to see. And they, you know, that's going to drive them crazy. That's going to drive them crazy. And then I can't imagine how exactly, because Marjorie Taylor Greene's whole premise was that there's no there when it comes to this mission called ICE. Imagine how they would react if Kristi Noem had proposed they leave over a completely different issue.
Pam Bondi sent a letter to state for leave Minneapolis, and one of those demands was that the state turn over its voter rolls to the federal government.
And here is the letter in question. Allow the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to access voter rolls to confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law as authorized by the Civil Rights Act of 1960. Fulfilling this common sense request will better guarantee free and fair elections and boost confidence in the rule of law. Hey, Pam Bondi, Tim Walz got a response. No, he mentioned you by name. I know everybody act like, yeah, you don't matter. Yeah, no, he mentioned you by name.
The Attorney General sent that in. I would thank the local folks and Commissioner Snell. A great thank you to you and your team over there. In that letter, they talked about, you know, you need to hand people over who are in your jails. They're taking credit for people that we've had in jail for a long time. We always hand them over, and the commissioner very clearly. So they're lying. They're lying. This has nothing to do with fraud, as the Attorney General said. They're not sending us forensic accountants, and these are things that have been we're dealing with now and have been for quite some time. So look, it's not a serious attempt to get at this. The way to fix this is get these folks out of here. We've continued to work with them. They asked us for these numbers. We provided them. We continue to show, and they're not serious. And look, I think everybody understands what the last request was, totally unrelated to anything on the voter files. This is, again, as the Attorney General said, Donald Trump telling everybody that the election was rigged, who started all this nightmare for America, has nothing to do with it. And I would just give a pro tip to the Attorney General. There's 2 million documents in the Epstein files we're still waiting on. Go ahead and work on those.
You can't make this stuff up, y'all. You cannot make this stuff up. But anyway, we have moved over the 30-minute mark. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick song break. We're going to come back and finish off this video, and we're getting to the rest of them. They're very short videos, the rest that I have to play. So we won't be here for too long. But yeah, you cannot make this stuff up. You really can't. I just am going to keep my mouth closed. I will be right back, y'all. Let's take this quick song break. I'll see y'all in a bit.
Check the pulse of the nation, feel a tremor in the ground. Another hollow promise, another hateful sound. The burner phones are buzzing, the leak, DMs exposed. The country club whispers about the people in their robes. They smiling for the cameras, preaching unity and grace. We're drafting legislation to keep you in your place. The dog whistles, the sirens, now the hoods are in the open. Igniting tiki torch shadows, leaving spirits broken. They want to turn the clock back to a time of guilt and pain, where progress is a dirty word and fear is how they reign. But every soul they try to crush just learn to stand up straighter. This ain't a game of politics, this is gladiator.
Enough is enough. The whispers turn into the heat. I feel so shut up. Enough is enough. Where the people at the table filling up our cup, filling up. This ain't about a party. The lines are clearly drawn. It's the light against the darkness that's coming for the dawn. Holy versus evil is the truth against the lie. We ain't backing down with a fire in the sky.
They coming for the libraries, wanna burn away the facts. Erase the bloody chapter so you can't see the tracks. They gerrymandering the district, drawing every map. Your vote is just an echo caught inside the power trap. They purging names from voter rolls and calling it secure, while scream about election fraud to keep their motives pure. They wanna legislate the scars upon a woman's soul, and on the very choices that whenever there's control. From the classroom to the courthouse, a calculated scheme to suffocate the promise of the American dream. But they forgot the dream was dreamed by rebels and by slaves, and their spirit is the very ground that trembles in their graves. Enough is enough. Call it policy, they call it survival, we call it tyranny. They stand on podiums with a Bible in their hand, but don't know the first thing about the soul of this land. This is for the teacher hiding books up on the shelf, for the doctor taking notes to more than just himself. This is for the dreamer facing down an ice patrol, for every ancestor's prayer that paid a spirit's toll. Their power is an illusion, a fortress made of glass. Our strength is in the future, they are terrified to let pass this hurricane of justice, an earthquake of the soul. It's a holy fire raging, and it's out of their control. Enough is enough. No more. Standing too long now that you can't stand. Enough is enough. See the people at the table filling up our corner. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
The rule of what? wait. For you, Cash, and Kristi Noem, and Donald Trump. And by the way, hey, when you talk about free and fair elections, you mean like this? Is it this free and fair elections? Free and fair elections. The only thing that I'm impressed by is that you even still have a civil rights division of the Department of Justice, because I saw how y'all gutted it. I'm shocked. I'm shocked you were even able to find a sign to pretend like that's a thing. Well, that's wild. That's wild. But how about this though, Pam Bondi? And get Kristi too. So we are supposed to believe a conclusion coming out of this ICE shooting to legitimize a ICE mission that you're willing to abandon over voter rolls registration information? MAGA, they got y'all looking crazy out here. They got y'all looking, crazier every day, crazier. And that's before I even get to the 2A of it all. Oh no, we gonna be back for the gun rights act. But no, I got something for y'all. I got a video. I got a video for y'all.
Yeah, fucking political. That was murder. An ICU nurse who worked at the VA, who was legally carrying a firearm that was holstered while he was filming, who is now being painted as a domestic terrorist because he took a gun to a protest. But all these 2A a couple years back were screaming Kyle Rittenhouse's name from the rooftops. Oh, that was different. Yeah, you're right. He had a rifle strapped to his chest. The man who was shot and murdered by ICE was concealed carrying a firearm that he was legally allowed to have. I am now seeing reports that it's even possible that they disarmed him by taking his weapon out of his holster that was at his 6 o'clock and then they mag dump the guy. So if you're illegally carrying a firearm and they take that off of your person and then utilize that as a justification to put rounds in your back while you're laying face down on the pavement, then it was never about following the law. The Second Amendment doesn't matter anymore. And so where's all the don't tread on me two-way gun-toting, boot-licking tards? Or is it just when it's not on your side? So I'm done playing the middle ground. I'm done making first aid videos that just might help, that can be seen by both sides. Trump, ICE, we are not mad enough.
But ultimately, I would like to end right here, because Alex Pretti, as much as all these conversations that are being had, was a son, he was a citizen, and by the looks of that video, he was the proverbial good guy with the gun they like to talk about. And I think it's important to keep his humanity front and center as we discuss stories that surround his death. This is Alex Pretti, a VA ICU nurse honoring a veteran he cared for at a VA hospital. The son of the deceased veteran just posted this video on Facebook with the following message. RIP Alex Pretti. He was my dad's ICU nurse. He read my dad's final salute at the VA after he passed away. Never wanted to share this video, but his speech is very on point. Also, my father's final words to me was continue to fight the good fight. He would be honored in Alex's sacrifice and ashamed of this current administration. And my dad's words, I encourage you all to continue to fight the good fight. And I will let him take us out.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. You have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render our honor and our gratitude.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and especially thank you for all your fantastic comments.
Sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but I never know because I wouldn't eat the filthy mother.
Hey, keep it clean. We got a PG-13 operation here. We got a lot of young eyes and ears.
All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and move right along. As we can see, child, these people, you can't make this stuff up. It's not real. These people cannot be real. But this is what we're dealing with. This is what we got in our hands. But anyway, we're going to move on to this report, y'all. This is from CNN. And on CNN, they're going to be talking about the reaction from Minnesota and the Border Patrol Chief Bovino's exit. Because they've been asking him to get out. They've been begging for him and the ICE officers to get out. And now they finally have ruled that he's got to go. So he's leaving, y'all. They're getting him out of there. Now, I can't say that a person they put in this place is any better than him, but one step at a time, I guess. I guess we got to take it one step at a time. Let's go ahead and get into this report real quick, y'all. This is just about 9 minutes, and we'll be right back.
Attorney General Keith Ellison, I appreciate you being with us here in the freezing cold. First of all, just the latest developments of, it seems, the reassignment of Mr. Bovino and the bringing in of Tom Homan. What do you make of that?
Well, it sounds like they need to change tempo in their eyes. But I can tell you that Minnesotans have had quite enough of Mr. Bovino. Glad to see him go. And the fact is that this city is outraged, is upset, is 50,000 plus marched in this freezing cold weather, 9 below, just a few days ago, the day before Mr. Pretti was shot down and killed, we marched 50,000 strong in the cold. So people are really, really upset. And I think Bovino leaving can only be a good development, and we'll hope for the best. But we're going to continue to press the claim of our state, no matter who's there.
Trump now touting a meeting between Mayor Fry and Homan, his border czar. And Homan is now taking the lead in Minnesota. Trump's controversial top Border Patrol official, Gregory Bovino, is expected to leave Minneapolis within the next 24 hours. And he's taking some of his 2,000 masked and armed border agents with him. CNN is learning administration officials are frustrated with Bovino, who you may remember went before cameras when Alex Pretti was shot. Just within 4 hours of that shooting, in fact, he said this.
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
It was clear that that was not true, according to the video, which contradicts what Bovino claimed. And Bovino's claims caused massive problems for this administration. Pretti, of course, is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry, according to Minnesota police, and he wasn't threatening them with it at the time. He was carrying a cell phone, according to the video. And Bovino is not the only one who's standing with Trump is quickly deteriorating because of his handling of this thus far. The White House distancing itself today from Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary's claims that Pretti committed an act of domestic terrorism.
Secretary Noem said Alex Pretti committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Pretti a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Pretti in that way.
And that comes as Republicans are now openly questioning the administration's aggressive tactics and demanding answers.
We certainly should not be labeling him as being a domestic terrorist who is going to execute cops. There's no evidence to support that.
What I think the administration could do better is the tone with which they're describing this. That immediately when an incident like this happens, they come out guns blazing, that we took out a violent terrorist, hooray.
So what's the goal right now? Is it to deport every single non-U.S. citizen? I don't think that's what Americans want.
I mean, it's pretty stunning when you hear that, right? It's loud and clear. And we've now got new video, as I said, coming into out front of the incident in Minneapolis that shows the moments leading up to the shooting. And I'm going to speak to the two witnesses who filmed this encounter with these videos. But first, let's go to Sarah Seidner. She is out front live in Minneapolis. And Sarah, you were there when Alex Pretti was killed. You were there when Minneapolis erupted afterwards. And now, obviously, Bovino leaving real repercussions from him are very significant. But what are protesters telling you?
They are significant from a 35,000-foot view, but on the ground, it's too little too late. They have already killed 2 American citizens and shot another person in less than a month. And people here are like, look, we have asked again and again for ICE to leave this community. Not just the protesters, not just the resident, not just some of the business owners here, but the governor and the mayor. And so for those who are here, those who are mourning Alex Pretti, the 37-year-old ICU nurse who worked at the Veterans Hospital, for them, it is almost a slap in the face. They want ICE and federal agents out of here. All of them, not some of them, not a few of them, all of them.
Sources now tell CNN that Border Patrol Commander Bovino and some of his agents are expected to leave Minneapolis tomorrow. Now, this shift in tone from the White House follows 2 days of top Trump administration officials making what can only be called blatant misrepresentations about Saturday's killing of Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old VA ICU nurse from Minneapolis. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said without evidence that Pretti brandished a gun and committed an act of domestic terrorism. Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller called him an assassin. Bovino said Pretti assaulted law enforcement. False, 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 false. Those statements all at best inconsistent with what we can all see on the videos of the shooting, and at worst, egregious lies. Either way, these officials are being called out as such, even by opinion journalists who are normally quite supportive of the administration. The Wall Street Journal and the Free Press editorial boards, even the New York Post editorial board wrote today, quote, "Mr. President, the American people didn't vote for these scenes, and you can't continue to order them to not believe their lying eyes," unquote. Even Leavitt wouldn't stand by the Noem and Miller lies today.
Secretary Noem said Alex Pretti committed an act of domestic terrorism. Stephen Miller labeled Pretti a domestic terrorist. Does the president agree with them?
Look, as I've said, I have not heard the president characterize Mr. Pretti in that way. However, I have heard the president say he wants to let the facts in the investigation lead itself.
Was he alarmed to hear his top officials referring to him in that way, rushing to that judgment?
Danny, go ahead.
Let's start with CNN's Anderson Cooper, who's in Minneapolis. Anderson, tell us what you're seeing and hearing there today, now that it appears as though the president is sidelining Bavino and sending in border czar Tom Homan.
Yeah, look, I certainly think there's a lot of people who have been out in the streets, a lot of people who have been out at the memorial for Alex Pretti, as we have seen over the last couple of days, who will certainly be relieved to hear about the reassignment or the demotion or whatever one wants to characterize it as of Greg Bavino. There certainly has not been much confidence in his ability to tell the truth or his ability to control any of the agents or many of the agents under his alleged leadership. And I think, so you hear people I've talked to are pleased by that news, unclear exactly what it means to have Tom Homan coming in. Obviously, there's some people who are going to read that as a good development, anything that brings some sort of order and sense of decent policing by some of these agents from Border Patrol or ICE. I mean, we've all seen the images of what happened to Alex Pretti, the tactics that the local police here, the city police, have been decrying by many of these Border Patrol agents, by these mass ICE agents who seem to answer to no one. And as you know, the federal government is now in charge. The Border Patrol, ICE, is in charge of investigating what happened, whether they're investigating their own officers or investigating Alex Pretti as a domestic terrorist, as the Secretary of Homeland Security labeled him, as you've been reporting, and Gregory Bavino as well, and Stephen Miller. That is unclear. So there's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of fear and anger here. But certainly it does feel like something is changing, and how that actually reflects on the ground in terms of actual operations. Will people still be ripped out of their cars, have their seatbelts cut, be pushed on the ground, be maced, with chemical agents is unclear. So a lot remains to be seen. But it certainly has been a day of breaking developments and some sort of sense that there is some sort of change.
Yeah, Greg Bavino being pulled back is not exactly a vote of confidence. Anderson Cooper in Minneapolis, thanks so much.
All right, y'all. So we're going to be moving right along. We're going to get into our next video and coverage for today. So I'm going to move over to the iHip News channel and network, and we'll be talking about Trump and how he has fired the head of ICE, and the panic and the fear that he has looming over possible impeachment. So let's go ahead and get into some talking points from two of my favorite girls, my new favorite girls. We'll be talking to Jennifer from over in the iHip network. Listen to a little bit of the content from their channel. Child, they do not hold back. I love it. I love it. I love it. Everything they say is like how I want to speak and talk, and the things that I think and I feel. At some points, we mostly agree with most of the same things, child, but they be going all the way in. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of that, y'all. We'll listen to some audio, and we'll be right back.
Executed Alex Pretti. Donald Trump, CNN was reporting, sat and watched media coverage for hours, and he didn't like the way this was playing. And this is a really important thing. Donald Trump is super into optics. He doesn't care about the guy getting shot. He cares about how everything is presented on the television. That's the most important thing to him. And he could see that his I squad, particularly Greg Bovino, looked like an asshole, looked like a sociopath. He could see that the journalists were having a very difficult time describing it anything other than what we all saw, which is murder. So the Midas Touch is reporting the following. This broke yesterday. The Atlantic reports that Greg Bovino has been removed from his role as Border Patrol Commander at Large and will return to his former job in El Centro, California, where he is expected to retire soon. The report also says DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and advisor, aka lover, Corey Lewandowski, are at risk of losing their jobs. So apparently there was a 2-hour bender in the Oval last night, I read this morning. And there's some reporting that Stephen Miller wasn't there, but it was Kristi Noem and others talking about all of this ICE stuff. So apparently she's on thin ice and he doesn't like the optics of this. Mind you, it's not that this is immoral. It's not that this is completely eroding the rule of law. It's the optics. And you might remember, I always remind everyone, during the January 6th insurrection, he watched it from the Oval Office dining room. And reports from insiders in that dining room said that Trump said, I wish my supporters didn't look so trashy.
Honestly, one thing that's been a big part of my life that's really
when I hear that Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski are on thin ice, I'm like, no shit. She's going to be the first to go. And I always think it's interesting that they put these reports together, like they're connected at the hip when all she talks about is her godly marriage and her family values. But that's not the issue today. The issue today is, I agree with you 1000%. Donald Trump could give two shits that somebody died, that people are being terrorized. He cares about his poll numbers. He says, I'm so popular, everybody loves me. His poll numbers are in the toilet. That we know that because he goes on social media and says how great they are. And then I was watching some Fox coverage. Even they are having a hard time spinning this shit. And this is going to stick to him. And he's worried about his legacy, which is unbelievable to me, as he destroys everything. But this is going to follow him into retirement, in my opinion. And he wants to be the good guy, the guy that everybody loves. And this is killing it.
He just wants to flip the narrative. He understands television. Right. He understands optics. He understands branding. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, historian, says he's one of the best propaganda she's ever seen. And people get mad at her for saying that. But he understands that this is playing negatively. So there isn't some moral decision here. This is merely optics. And this isn't a huge, he's staying up in the middle of the night worried about his legacy. Everything is just a tiny little blip in the radar for these people. This is turn the page. Nobody understands the news cycle like this man does. I mean, he was about to go to federal prison and was able to turn the news cycle. But here's back to Greg Bovino. He did the same crap in Chicago, and then they moved him. And Representative Ramirez has the following analysis on this, and I think she's spot on. Just as he did in Chicago, Bovino is leaving Minneapolis to invade and terrorize another city, standing against Trump. It is a sick playbook to try to avoid accountability. But no matter where DHS agents go, we will hold them accountable. And here's what we need to know. The person that murdered Renee Good, there's no investigation. Kristi Noem and the Trump administration lied and labeled her a terrorist. And the FBI wanted to investigate her. And many people resigned over this. Many people said, we're not doing this. She was clearly the victim. The murderer of Alex Pretti has not even been identified, has not even been put on probation. There's barely, I don't even think they're going to do an investigation on this. And this administration, this is their desired effect. They want us terrified. Their only hesitation here is, oh shit, this could hurt our deportations. And I heard this, that even Stephen Miller was like, they're screwing up my chances to deport people, because we all know his sinister ambition of deporting 100 million people. So many people in these concentration camps, and that's what we need to call them, are being abused. There's reporting that officers and agents in these detention centers are sticking their fingers in people's ear, grabbing their testicles, and like in a very damaging way. These people are being abused. And the only thing these people care about is that this happened in public. And so the fact that there's still talk about potentially funding ICE in any way, shape, or form tells me that we have a real problem in this country. Because in my opinion, we would know that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer were doing a good job if the right absolutely hated them. They hated Nancy Pelosi. Why did they hate her? Because she was effective. I didn't agree with her on everything, but she whipped the votes. And Trump 1.0, she was the resistance, and the hatred followed. There's never any talk in the right-wing media ecosystem about how effective or what a fighter Hakeem Jeffries is, or Chuck Schumer, ever. I've never seen one, ever. If anything, all they do is ever call them weak and ineffective, the same complaint that the Democrats have.
When you look at the whole investigation into these murders, I noticed the very first thing in both instances, they whisked the officer, the person that murdered the civilian, out of the jurisdiction. And obviously we know it's because they don't want them to be investigated by the state police forces. And so they're ripping him out of the jurisdiction. You know, they're wearing masks so people won't know who they are. Because in my mind, they have to protect these people, because the truth will put them in jail. It will put all of them in jeopardy with the negligence and the diabolical nature of the orders. And as to the Democratic response, I did see a tweet yesterday from the Senate Majority Leader, and I thought, this is it. This is your response to this. It was so lackluster. And I mean, if you thought you were going to get a fight from the Democrats, you're fucking wrong. They're rolling over and playing dead, even on an issue like this. It's gross.
All right, moving along. There's reporting here. Trump does not like the optics of what's happening in Minnesota. Pop this up, Kylie. Trump is not happy. Insiders say president fuming over DHS handling of Minnesota shooting. And as I led into this, do not buy for a second that this is any sense of humanity or moral clarity from this man. He, after being sworn in, tweeted, retribution is coming for Minnesota. Like we're coming to, there's going to be a reckoning in Minnesota. Everything that happened in Minnesota was created by this administration. And this is what's so sad for me about Renee Good and Alex Pretti. They did what I could see any of us doing if there were Gestapo running around in our cities terrorizing people. Hey, let's get whistles and let's get a camera and let's go film this. And it never occurred to them that they could get killed. Renee Good, it's okay, dude. I'm not mad at you. Boom, boom, boom. 3 shots. First one was in her arm, second one in her lung, third one in her temple. Executed. Alex Pretti. Hey, are you okay? He said to the woman that was pushed down and pepper sprayed while he got pepper sprayed. Pop, 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 9 times in the back. It never occurred to them that they were in danger, exercising their constitutional rights. So this is the effect that they want, where you will be scared to take to the streets, that you will be fearful that you will be shot. And I would be remiss, as I'll get out, if I didn't mention that for Black Americans, this has been the reality the entire time. And white people have not cared about it. But this is what happens in Black neighborhoods. They're over-policed. They create a ruckus out of nothing, beat the shit out of the Black person. Think about what happened to Alex Pretti. They beat the shit out of him, then shot him. This same thing happens in Black neighborhoods. And I want a message to white people. We have to grow and evolve. We can't just care about this now, because this is familiar for law enforcement. This type of behavior is familiar. It's not new. Another component of this that is similar, no matter who's president, is that they blame the victim. You hear all in right-wing media, if you don't want to get shot, don't go film ICE agents. Same thing that white Americans say about Black Americans. And the justice system has been stacked against them this whole time. So it's important when we talk about this that we're really intellectually honest about it. This is not new. This has been happening. What's new is it's happening now to white people. And it's really super important that white people understand this, that none of us are free until all of us are free. So when we allow these abuses and acts of injustice and outright lies from law enforcement and never atone for them, never account for them, it's going to continue. And eventually it absorbs into the whole population.
Yes, I have to say I was remiss in understanding what the Black community faces with over-policing and being shot for wearing a hoodie and all of those things until I really dug deep in it during COVID and watching, and you just statistically, the discrimination and abuse and growing up in suburban white circles, it was like, oh, well, if the police shot him, they were a criminal. The benefit of the doubt was always given to the officer. And what I have found is that it's quite the opposite. And you see it playing out here. And it's interesting to me that there's such an uprising now. We need to band together going forward, not just for the white people, not just for American citizens, but for all human beings. And I'll admit, I was slow to the party on this, and I really appreciate the work that people have done to put this into everybody's eyes to see it. But we have so much work to do, because it's not okay. It's not okay for the police to shoot one unarmed person that is not resisting or doing anything wrong. And that's something we have to face across the board, regardless of who's president, like you said.
And I think the white population has a duty within white circles. When you hear people say racist things, and when you hear this type of aggressions about the police policing Black neighborhoods, you have a choice. You have a choice every single day. You can let it go and just zip your mouth and go, oh, that's just the way they are, and roll with it. Or you can stand up for a community that has always been on the front lines of everything. Black women are always on the front lines fighting for everyone. Can we return the favor? Can we think, I would rather offend this white person and tell them they're a racist to their face and stand up for this entire community that's been shit on for centuries? And I think that's what we need to encourage each other to do, because this shit happens locally and expands nationally. It's not enough for us just all to say it here and then in the comments that we agree. It has to be a part of our culture that we stand up against racism and that we are actively anti-racist. It is such an important lesson in all of this. And as it pertains to ICE, we're going to see a lot of the Democrats come out, and it's going to be refrain, restrict, rebudget. It's going to be all this bullshit, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, allowing Trump and his Gestapo to be fully funded. And before Alex Pretti was shot, this is what happened. And this is really important. Pop this up. Lost in the background of the horrific murder of Alex Pretti is that an ICE agent walked up to a woman who was actively backing away from him and shoved her with two hands, sending her sprawling backwards onto an icy sidewalk. He then tries to pepper spray her while she is prone on the ground. There is no justification for this physical violence against her. She isn't resisting arrest, and she isn't threatening the agent. He crossed the street to physically attack her. This is not normal. This is not okay. Law enforcement cannot physically assault citizens on the street. Any police officer who did this would lose their job, and I think should lose their job. We've seen countless examples of ICE initiating physical violence with no justification. This cannot be normalized. This is so important because I remember when I watched the video over the weekend, this ICE agent just appears out of nowhere and shoves this woman two hands to the ground. She was just standing there filming. And it doesn't matter. She's saying, fuck you. It doesn't matter what she's saying to him. It's her right to say it. And Alex Pretti went to protect her. And he is the vision of masculinity that these men that sign up for ICE and these MAGA triple Trumpers despise, because they don't have that. They don't have the integrity. These are the people that actively use the N-word. These are the people that are threatened by brave, successful women or brave, successful LGBTQ plus people or a Black woman. And they're compensating narcissism that they have. They think they can fill it up by having a gun and a badge and being able to beat up marginalized people. And it's super important that.
Can you be a travel advisor without quitting your 9-to-5? Actually,
this acts with impunity in right-wing spaces. There are all these MAGA Christian accounts right now that say about Alex Pretti's murder, I voted for this. And then you click in the bio and it's like a Bible verse. And so this death cult that is evangelical Christianity, make no mistake about it, this is the most co-opted cult on the planet. They were co-opted by the KKK, co-opted by the pro-life movement, which really wasn't an issue in the United States until they needed culture wars. Now these people are all in on this cruelty. And they're like crackheads, like addicts, these evangelical cult members. They have to get more and more hits. Their tolerance level keeps increasing as to what they'll tolerate. And it seems like it's a Pavlovian thing for them. Once they taste a little bit, once there's a tiny bit of chum in the water, they want it escalated. And the people that are in Trump's Gestapo have the same desire to want to escalate the violence as the audience watching wants to see it escalated. And the only option for me regarding all of this is that ICE must be abolished. There's no other song and dance that can be said about this other than ICE must be abolished.
When I see and hear the right-wing media, when they play this, it's like, well, he was yelling things at ICE. He was in their face. None of the things that they're alleging are anything other than constitutional rights. Full stop. And then they even go so far to say as, well, he brought a gun to a protest, though there's no evidence he ever had the gun out. These are the same people that were rah-rah for Kyle Rittenhouse. And so when I look at this, I see just in the rhetoric after trying to defend this type of behavior by these agents, I see an erosion of freedom of speech, as clear as a bell, an erosion of freedom of assembly. Crystal clear. These people want to take our rights. And then interestingly enough, you've got the whole gun lobby that's saying, no, you can't say that. You can take it. You know, the gun lobby and MAGA, the spin doctors at MAGA are, you know, juxtaposing at this point. So it's just, when I look at all of this, obviously I think of the victims and how horrible it is, but the spin on it to me is getting people used to having their rights eroded.
And then I just want to remind everybody as we leave you with the following. Peter Twinklage on Twitter reminds us that approximately 2/3 of the 1,800 immigrants held in Alligator Alcatraz ICE facility last summer are now missing on the public ICE locator tool. They have been literally disappeared. Poof. Their loved ones have no way to track their whereabouts or well-being. And so as we watch this, I want everyone to remember that there are people who are actively every day waking up and hiding. There are parents who don't feel safe taking their children to school. There are children who don't feel safe going to school. Conversations are being had where parents say, if an ICE agent approaches you, here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to talk about. And here's the thing, this isn't new either. Kids have been shot in American schools for decades. Nothing by the pro-life party. So when we allow the abuse of kids, it just continues. It's chum in the water for these sociopaths. It's chum in the water for these MAGA Christians. The cruelty is recreational for them. They don't care that these people are disappeared. They like it that little kids are scared of them. This is a very broken cancer in American culture. And it is a shame and a stain on all of humanity, what's happening in the United States of America, what the United States of America funds to happen to Gaza, where you have the IDF forces using the same tactics that ICE is using. Do you not see the through line, listener? Do you see the through line in all of this? This moral superiority. We're going to shoot people with impunity. Then we're going to blame the victims. We're going to propagandize. We're going to gaslight. This doesn't end well. History doesn't record this for the side that they all think they're on. All right, that's all we have. Please like, subscribe, comment. We'll be back later with more news.
Absolutely. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If y'all have not checked out the iHit News YouTube channel and platform, please go over there and check them out. Watch some of their videos, subscribe, become a member, and support that channel. I really love those ladies. Like, I came across their platform. I watch them now all the time. And the way they talk, child, they be giving me life. Because this is how I talk. This is how I think. And I hold back no tongue. And neither do they. And so I really enjoy listening to their content, but also their intellect when they're having conversations about very important situations and pertinent situations, especially what we're seeing going on right now within the political sector, which they talk a lot about as well. But other things too. But yeah, so y'all heard it. Y'all heard what they said. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Everything that they were saying, I was just like, yes, girl. And I had the mic muted, but I really was just out here like cheerleading because I'm like, oh, they're hitting all the impertinent points. They're saying what needs to be said. They're bringing it to the forefront and putting it out there for people to hear and listen to. And I know it's hard for people sometimes. I do understand that. And I also wanted to say something else because I heard something the other day and I was just like, okay, I'll address it. I do understand that in this world, or when it comes to political sector and stuff like that, especially, that people are not necessarily on the same side. Some people may be Republicans, some people may be Democrats, some people may be independents, and people may think and feel and move and operate and make choices and vote in whatever direction that they see fit. There may be things that happens and they see it a different way, through a different lens. And that's always okay, because I feel as though us as being unique individuals and people that walk this earth, we all are not going to see it the same way. We're all not going to experience it the same way. And we're all not going to have the same talking points when it comes to, some of these major conversations and hard conversations that need to be had. And like I said, two, actually, because I talked about this in another video, two of the major things that is very hard to have conversations about is religion and politics. But what I'm liking and I'm starting to see is that in some type of way, we are finding a way to anyway be embedded in conversation when it comes to it. Whether it's our politics or it's our religion, we're having the hard conversations and we're having them with each other, hopefully, most likely with respect, if we approach the conversation the proper way. And I don't ever want to fear anybody or scare anybody away from talking to me or sitting with me. I know sometimes I can be a bit much and I may say a little bit too much and I get a little bit too, riled up. But overall, I respect the fact that we don't all see it the same way or experience it the same way. And we don't have the same views about these things because we don't look at it through the same lens. And I understand that a lot of us don't walk through life wearing the same lens. I used to work in the eye doctor. I know that. So it's okay to have these conversations, whether somebody agree or disagree, whether they see it a little bit differently, or they're on the left, or they're on the right, or they're in the middle, they're unsure, or they don't vote at all and they don't believe in any of it. It's okay for us to have conversations together about these things. I know sometimes maybe I come off a little strong about my beliefs and my stance and where I sit with, what I feel and what I believe and what I think. But just because those are my thoughts and my feelings and my beliefs, it doesn't mean that yours are less valid and you can't talk with me or have a conversation with me about it. I'm not going to jump down your throat. I'm not going to cuss you out. We're not going to get into a fight or an argument or anything like that. I only fight and argue with people when it's personal attacks. But when it comes to politics and religious stuff and differences that we all may hold and have in conversations, that can be had despite what side we're on and what our thoughts and feelings are based off of those sides, it's not hard for me to sit down with someone who doesn't see it the same way that I see it and have a conversation with them respectfully. So, I know a lot of times these type of contents can scare people away. And I make songs, child, and I know sometimes the songs can be a little bit rough. It sounds like, right? It's a little bit like renegade style. But, oh, what'd you say, Monty? He said religion, race, politics are hard for some of us to discuss. I know. Not all of us, but some of us. Yeah. Yep. It's been that way. It's been that way for a long period of time, but we have to appreciate the small gains, right? Because as I watch society, youth, and even in social media, conversations, content, things that are being done now that weren't being done maybe 10 years ago. It has changed. It is maybe not so comfortable, and maybe sometimes it ends in a brawl or argument or something like that, but at least it's being tried. People are trying to have the conversation. People are trying to, talk about these things despite what side they're on. At least we're making steps forward when it comes to trying. Before, nobody even wanted to try. They didn't even think about it. They didn't even think about entering these type of conversations. They didn't even think about giving it patience and time to understand where each other is coming from on either side. None of that was happening, but at least now it's happening to some extent. We may not have gotten it all together, and we may still very heavily disagree with one another, but I think we're at least able to sit now in a place, in a space where we can have these conversations in a safe way, and I think that's the only way that we will be able to understand each other more and be on the same page with each other more, and maybe move and push things forward for the better and the good for all of us by, sitting at the round table and having these conversations, despite the fact that we see it differently and we may stand on different sides. And us as the people, we're seeing that, and we're moving and operating that way. And we're looking at our government, well, at least the United States government, and we're asking them, which it used to be a little bit like that, and it just kind of changed and shifted, and now it's crazy work. But we're asking them, can we go back to at least doing that at bare minimum? But we're going to take a quick song break, y'all, and then after the song break, I got a few more videos I'm going to show y'all, but these ones are really, really short, like 5-6 minutes, so they won't take long at all. But let's take this song break, and I'll be right back.
Sickness spreads in whispers, and poison wells in corrupted corrupted. But a community with a strong immune system develops its own antidote.
This is the cure. Listen. Listen, there's a venom in the discourse, a toxin in the talk, a parasitic agent feasting on the soul of the block. It spreads through the timeline, infecting the youth, disguising its poison. In the fragment of truth, it preaches self-interest, promotes the individual dream. Anything to fracture the collective, to poison the stream. We see the symptoms in the envy, the distrust that you breed. You planting seeds of chaos, fulfilling the system's need. This ain't about a person, this is about a constitution. You're a weapon of division, a tool of social pollution. Like, the agenda's getting bold. Why? Your people have been sold. Jig is up. You're the poison, the cancer, and the cold. You don't fight for the cause, you just lighten the load for the oppressed. Lie. Hear the conscience, see the fraud. Bye. Your whole damn act's a fraud. You're a symptom of the sickness, a tool of the trade. For every conscience that we take, you pull us from the shade back into the darkness. Fighting sister against brother while you collect the profits, then go poison another. You weaponize our trauma, you monetize our pain. Tell us to tear each other down for your temporary gain. You speak the language of the people with the motives of the state. Asleep, a cell of selfishness designed to make us hate. But the body's getting stronger, the fever's starting to break. We can finally see the difference between what's real and what's fake. Like, my. The agenda's getting bold. Why? People have been sold. Jig is up. You're the poison, the cancer, and the cold. You don't fight for the cause. You just lighten the load for the soul. Yeah, the conscience, see the fraud. Bye. Your whole damn act's a fraud. But the antidote is unity, the cure is in the roots. It's the knowledge of the elders and the fire in the boots of a generation rising that refuses to be bought. Recalling all the lessons that our ancestors taught. We cleanse the foundation, rebuild the immune to make the collective a garden where the real seeds can bloom. You can't poison a forest that shares a single source. We are the uprising, the unstoppable force. This is a conscious rebellion, a surgical strike to separate the healthy cells from the ones you're alike. This is more than a track, it's a call to the core, to protect the foundation of what we're fighting for. So let them have the clout, let them have the fake fame, while we reclaim the power that's attached to our name. Every word is a brick, every verse is a wall, to protect the community and watch the poisoners fall. So let the record show a community divided is a target, a community infected is a tragedy, but a community united is a revolution. In the golden rule, protect the people. Protect the people. Protect the people. Protect the people. The people presence.
All right, y'all. So that was a quick song break. We're going to go ahead and get into the next video, y'all. And this one is probably one of my favorites, child, because y'all know why. My girl, Jasmine Crockett, is over there holding it down, child. She's doing what she needs to do. And we're so proud of this young lady. And I'll root for her. My mom roots for her. We all root for her. But yeah, so James Comer apparently F's around and finds out with Jasmine Crockett. And child, I'm gonna need y'all to listen to this. This is real juicy and interesting. Let's get into it. I ain't gonna say too much. I'm gonna just let y'all watch for yourself, child. All the way together.
Seats. The Trump administration has taken a whole of government approach to rooting out fraud. The Trump administration has already uncovered at least $9 billion in fraud. These criminals have stolen taxpayer dollars from all Americans to fund lavish cars, homes, and vacations here in the U.S. and abroad. Some of this stolen money is even allegedly going overseas to support terrorists. Our witnesses, the chairwoman and two members of the Minnesota House of Representatives Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee, have been sounding the alarm on this fraud for years. Democrats have attempted to distract the American people from this widespread fraud and accuse investigators of racism. This should not be a partisan issue, but they clearly do not take this issue seriously. Either they don't take fraud seriously or they just don't care. It's one or the other. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes Ms. Jasmine Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And for every witness that is here. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I just have one quick question. I have not been here the entire hearing, but I don't think this question has been posed for each of you, and we can start at the far end. Do you believe that all Somalis are engaged in fraud?
Not sure if you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming President Trump is declining in the polls. President Trump.
I do not, and I'd like. Okay, just yes or no. Next.
Of course not.
Oh, absolutely not. We have good Somali people in our state.
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to make sure I level set because it seems like we want to continue to, especially as we just heard those particular articles entered into the record, we want to continue to just make it seem as if you are Somali, then somehow you are a fraudster. And this administration has decided that it wants a target on their backs. And so when my colleague, Ms. Randall, decided that she wanted to talk about the threats that are being made towards various Somali people, the reason she brought it up is because this particular side of the aisle has the tendency of if one person does something bad, especially if they are an immigrant, then we are going to cast aside that entire community. So I wanted to level set, and I appreciate your honesty because that's something that we very rarely get from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. In fact, if we want to talk about fraud, I got a lot of fraud that we're going to talk about because we're going to get into this, but I am very curious to hear, let me ask you, Mr. Ballou, are you aware of allegations that $50,000 in taxpayer dollars have been given to someone that is currently sitting in this administration by the name of Tom Homan? Are you aware? Okay, that's a yes.
I am.
Okay. And last I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong if you have different information, but he was given that $50,000 in exchange for being able to provide contracts and kickbacks to people as soon as Trump was going to get into office. The DOJ was actually investigating this, but as soon as Trump got into office, last I checked, he actually said, go ahead and throw away that case.
So it was a Department of Justice investigation, and he accepted the money from an undercover FBI agent in cash.
Are you aware as to whether or not we ever got that $50,000 back?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Are you aware as to whether or not this committee has decided to investigate that?
I'm not.
Are you aware as to whether or not any committee in Congress has decided to investigate the fact that we know that he took $50,000 from an undercover officer, and yet we still don't have that money, nor does he have any charges?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get into it. We're living through the most corrupt presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got his feelings hurt because he had to be investigated for being a criminal. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent at Trump-owned properties around the country, Trump-branded wine being sold at the Coast Guard exchanges, American taxpayer dollars being spent on DHS propaganda ads on Truth Social, awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for. Kristi Noem gave companies she's affiliated with hundreds of millions of tax dollars, then went out and spent another $200 million on 2 private jets for her travel. For 12 months, this administration has been taking billions of taxpayer dollars from American people and have been giving it away to their own companies in the form of tax cuts, government contracts, or other government funded subsidies. So Congress has a role in getting rid of fraud. I will admit that in any federally funded government program. However, I think the fraud that the American people are concerned about is that the Republicans are taking away Americans' health care so that ultra billionaires can get more tax cuts. The real fraud is the dehumanization and demonization of the working class Americans and immigrants to distract folks away from corporate socialism that's happening because of the Republicans. So this is truly the definition of throwing away the baby with the bathwater. The Republican philosophy is that if the cost of living for the average American increases, they're on their own. But if the cost of doing business increases for the wealthiest people on earth, well, then it's the government job to bail them out. But I want to get to my last question because, Mr. Ballou, I got to give you a chance. He's been issuing pardons for numerous people who have defrauded the American people. And Republicans on this committee, Yeah, just as quiet as the room just got, right? So, Mr. Ballou, talk to me about how the Trump administration has welcomed fraud across government by purging DOJ attorneys and shuttering ethics office across the federal government.
Well, one of the things that's been a common theme in this discussion so far is potential government employee involvement in some of these schemes. That hasn't been proven yet, but it does seem to be alleged. The concern that I have is the office that would prosecute that in the Department of Justice, the Public Integrity Section, has been largely defunded and decimated.
Thank you so much. And my time has expired, but I do have some UCs, Mr. Chairman.
You want to do them now?
I do.
Okay.
The first one is from Truth Out. Trump grants clemency to executive who led $205 million Medicare fraud scheme.
Without objection, it's ordered.
The next one is Trump commutes sentence of Dr. Solomon Melgen, eye doctor, found guilty of Medicare fraud.
Without objection, it's ordered.
The next one, healthcare fraudster Philip Esfermaze is latest Trump clemency recipient to be arrested. He defrauded more than $1 billion from Medicare.
Without objection, it's ordered.
Trump pardons nursing home owner and supporter convicted of $7 million in tax evasion.
Without objection, it's ordered.
Trump
and
pardons-
we'll want all that stuff to put in the record. So,
I will. I
All
got
right.
you. Trump pardons cost victims and taxpayers $1.3 billion. House Judiciary Committee Democrats review says.
All right. Without objection, so ordered.
Jasmine Crockett is currently running for John Cornyn's Texas Senate seat, and she has the sort of media presence that's hugely beneficial for pushing her message and for making waves. Fellow Democratic Representative James Tallarico is also running, and the two have fairly similar polling, at least as of when we're recording this. Either candidate would likely offer the best chance Democrats have had in a very long time of flipping a Texas Senate seat. And this is a wild ride on both sides, because at the same time on the right, you have Texas's notorious Attorney General Ken Paxton trying to out-MAGA John Cornyn. The primary is going to be held on March 3rd, and here's hoping whichever Democratic candidate gets the nomination, they'll do the seemingly impossible then on November 3rd. If you
Well, didn't she get them all the way together? Child, we just... Jasmine Crockett always makes the slam dunk. You can't make this stuff up. But I really like, that we do have people that are out here speaking and fighting for what is right and in the right direction when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Because these are the things that are being done, and we do have people that are fighting against it the very best that they can, based off the positions that they hold and that they're in. And that's what the importance is, right? We all may not be in certain positions or places and spaces where we can maybe get certain things changed or turned around, but our little positions or our small position or our positions that we hold, we can utilize to bring forth change, difference, information, education, and all of the things. So I just really salute people that are willing to take that step and hold those positions. It is not easy to hold those type of positions. But anyway, y'all, we got two last videos I'm gonna show y'all, and these ones are really, really short. So Trump's ICE plan seems to be crumbling as Republicans have a lot of backlash, as we've seen, and it's erupting after the Alex Pretti unaliving. So I just wanted to show people that when it comes to picking a side, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I know for a long period of time, it's almost like they've been arch enemies, right? The Democrats are against the Republicans are against the Democrats. We're actually getting to a place now, I believe, in the world as the human race, where we're understanding and seeing further than just our party that we seem to claim. We actually are starting to see humanity being erupted, humanity being affected right before our eyes on video footage for most of us to bear witness to almost every day, it seems like now. And I think whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you have a piece of integrity in your heart and you feel a certain type of way about these things, then you'll speak out in the right direction when it comes to it, despite whatever side you're on. And so I wanted to show this video because I know that sometimes when we have these conversations, they're difficult because it may seem somebody's more so left, somebody's more so right, somebody's more so Republican, somebody's more so Democrat. What we're seeing and we're bearing witness to in front of our eyes, this doesn't have anything to do with what party anybody may decide that they want to choose. This has to do with humanity. And we are watching humanity right before our eyes be dismantled. We are watching people's rights be dismantled. We are watching history almost go back in time. And I think people are now getting on the right side of that when it comes to that, despite whether they're a Democrat, a Republican, or anything else. None of that matters. What about the human rights? What is right and what is wrong? These are the things that are important. And these are the things that I think we're starting now to wake up and open our eyes to bear witness to, pay attention to, and actually care about, and speak up in the right way, in the proper way, when it comes to these inhumane ways that human beings are being treated, not just in this country, but worldwide. So let's go ahead and play this, because I know a lot of people, you know, they may even probably think that I'm a Democrat of some kind, right? Because of, I guess, my talking points, how I talk or whatever like that, what I stand for, what I don't stand for. I don't pick any sides, honestly. And you don't necessarily have to tell people what your political side is. But I have no problem with it because I'm not ashamed. I'm independent. And when it comes to being independent, that means I think for myself and I look to see how everything is playing out. I'm looking to see who has the best interest of the people in mind, despite the race, despite the sexual orientation. Who has the best interest of the people in mind? Period. That's what I look for. And a lot of times I am often disappointed because it doesn't matter. When I look on the Dem side, there are some things they do over there that I don't care for. When I look on the Republican side, there are some things they do over there that I don't care for. Do they ever give independent runners a chance? No. So, no, I'm very much neutral and I stay pretty much in the middle. And I speak up for what's right and wrong. It doesn't matter who it's happening to, what they look like, what background they come from. It's about what's right and what's wrong. And if we move like that and we look at each other as more similar than different, then I think that we can move forward in this world through these issues that we are seeing now politically in a different way. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the video. I don't want to talk too much, y'all. Y'all know I can over talk. Let's play some of this. So Republicans seem to be attacking Trump over admin, over ICE, and the unaliving of Alex Pretti.
Individual is dead at the hands of Border Patrol. Let's be clear. We do not know if there was any pushback from this individual who was armed. We do not have evidence that he was waving a gun, doing anything to threaten Border Patrol. He had his phone and he was shooting. He was viewing and recording the incident. That's what he was doing, recording the incident. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction? And you are an elected official. What can you do about it?
If I were President Trump, I would almost think about, okay, if the mayor and the governor are going to put our ICE officials in harm's way, and there's a chance of losing more, innocent lives or whatever, then maybe go to another city.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty bad for the Trump administration when James Comer is telling Trump to stand down, to effectively retreat from Minneapolis. Now, he's still lying at the same time, saying that ICE is in danger. ICE has not been in danger. I'll remind you. Yeah, they got their fascist slogan, the one of ours, all of yours. It's never been one of theirs. It's only ours that are dying. So James Comer is still lying, but at least he is admitting, yeah, this is getting untenable. Perhaps we should back off. And it's not just him, and it's not just elected Republicans. Marjorie Greene, recently a couple weeks out of office, she posted yet another one of her novellas, but in this case, mostly positive, saying, yeah, I support all this absolute ICE BS or whatever, but I unapologetically support the Second Amendment. Legally carrying a firearm is not the same as brandishing a firearm. I support Americans' First and Fourth Amendment rights. There's nothing wrong with legally, peacefully protesting and videoing. MAGA, consider it like this. We lost our minds when we watched Biden's FBI track down and aggressively carry out home invasions and arrest our peaceful J6ers who walked in Capitol through open doors. No, I'm done with her, actually. Marjorie Greene, go F yourself. You could have been right. You were on the precipice of being nothing, not worst. I wish I could just swear in the first hour. You suck. You just suck. Go away. Go away. Go away. We'll check in a few years. You suck. Republican Governor Phil Scott, Republican of Vermont, put out a statement against this. I'm gonna have to catch up. There's a lot. Tim Pool, I guess he woke up on the right side of the beanie. He's has an issue with what's going on there. Says empty hand, then gun in hand. Appears the man may have been disarmed before being shot. A lot of this is like early on before some of the later videos came out. This is a chain of events at a greater conflict. And again, they can't just be right. They have to be awful. Neither side cares at this point what justifies it or doesn't. No, Tim, one side cares. One side has been being gunned down. This is not a both sides of there's bad people on both sides. They're killers. We're being killed. And you're kind of dipping a toe in siding with those being gunned down in the streets. I don't see Trump winning this. That's the important thing. The important thing is how it plays out politically or whatever. Tim Pool. Okay, no, actually, Tim Pool, I'm done with you two. You still suck, actually. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy said the events in Minneapolis are incredibly disturbing. The credibility of ICE and DHS are at stake. Well, they would be if they had any credibility. There must be full joint federal and state investigation. We can trust the American people with the truth. Good. I'm glad that he's calling for that. Hopefully we'll get it. I doubt it. I'm sure the cover up is on. They literally blocked the local investigators from getting to the crime scene to see what happened.
All right, y'all. So that was just a little piece of audio that I wanted to play for y'all. Let's get into the next one. We're moving right along here, y'all, because you know we got to keep moving right along. So, getting into something that's very serious. There is a ban on deporting U.S. citizens that has been removed from the DHS funding bill, and the Congresswoman is going to be speaking about this. Okay, this is Rachel Maddow's reports that I'm going to be showing y'all. Okay, but Representative Veronica Escobar is going to be speaking on exactly what is happening right now in Congress. So let's go ahead and get into that, y'all. I'm gonna put that video up for us to listen to. We're gonna wrap this up soon. Don't worry, it won't be too much longer. It's just always something going on. Always something going on, something for us to check into and keep up with. So let's listen to this report. This is from one of my other favorite reporters when it comes to mainstream media that is still integral, working within the MSNBC network. This is Rachel Maddow. And so let's go ahead and get into the Rachel Maddow show and listen to this.
2 days before Alex Pretti was shot and killed by federal agents in Minneapolis, Republicans in Congress, Republicans in the House of Representatives, voted on a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which is the agency that oversees ICE and the rest of Trump's immigration crackdown. Just as they were preparing to pass that bill in the House, one Democratic congresswoman from Texas, Veronica Escobar, came forward with a warning about what they were about to vote on. She says, quote, "During our debate on the bill, I successfully amended the bill to include language that would prevent ICE from apprehending and deporting U.S. citizens. When the bill was reported out of committee, it included my amendment. But," she says, "during negotiations, I was told that the White House, Stephen Miller in particular, stripped my amendment from the bill." Again, the amendment was explicitly and specifically just to prevent ICE from apprehending and deporting U.S. citizens. They stripped that out of the bill, reportedly at the White House's insistence. Congresswoman Escobar says, quote, "This means Donald Trump does not want to protect U.S. citizens. Let that sink in. Donald Trump does not want U.S. citizens protected from being detained and deported by ICE." So Republicans are preparing to vote on the big bill to fund ICE, to fund Homeland Security. Congresswoman Escobar says, hey, can we just make it clear here that ICE can't arrest and deport U.S. citizens? Republicans say, yes, we can do that. That's fine. We're not supposed to be deporting U.S. citizens anyway, right? So go ahead and put that in this bill. We agree. But then according to the Congresswoman, the White House and Stephen Miller then step in and tell the Republicans, we don't care that you're okay with it. We want that taken out. We don't want anything in this bill that might prevent us from arresting U.S. citizens and deporting them out of the country. Citizens. After they, at the White House's insistence, reportedly, stripped out the language about not arresting and deporting American citizens, Republicans did end up passing that bill out of the House. That is the bill that is now headed to the Senate, where it will need 60 votes to pass in order to avoid at least a partial government shutdown. Democrats say they don't want anything to do with it, and they're not going to help, and they're not going to vote to fund ICE and DHS. The Senate's Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, said over the weekend, Senate Democrats will not provide the votes to proceed to the appropriations bill if the Homeland Security funding bill is included. So, I mean, we'll see. Republicans are going to have to take some action this week in order to avoid at least a partial government shutdown. It's possible they're going to strip out just the bill to fund Homeland Security and then try to pass all the other bills to fund all the other agencies. We don't know. But in terms of the Homeland Security funding, the ICE funding, the U.S. Citizen Amendment remains out of it at this point, at Stephen Miller's reported insistence. Democrats do appear to be willing and ready to take a stand here at a moment when public opinion is very much on their side. Please do watch this space.
Can you tell us?
That's absolutely right, Anna. Just moments ago, we saw state investigators here at the site where Alex Pretti was shot and killed around 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. They set up a ladder right over there, and they were taking photo evidence, pictures, and collecting what appear to be swabs of other evidence on the scene. And this is encouraging because, Anna, as you just noted, Governor Walz and President Trump talked just yesterday. And after that phone call conversation, Governor Walz released this statement saying, quote, the president agreed to look into reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota and to talk to DHS about ensuring the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is able to conduct an independent investigation as would ordinarily be the case. Well, we may have been just seeing that investigation in real time. And this is notable, of course, Anna, because in the wake of the previous killing of Renee Good just a couple of weeks ago, we saw the federal government sort of gatekeep the state from their own investigation, not share key pieces of evidence like the car that Renee Good was in, like the shell casings, like the eyewitness testimony that the FBI had gathered at the scene. Based on this conversation between Governor Walz and President Trump, it looks like there may be more coordination, more cooperation between the state and the federal government when it comes to this investigation with Alex Pretti. Anna?
And Alex, I know there is a rally set for later today celebrating Greg Bovino's departure and this plan to move out some of the federal agents. Homan meets today with the mayor. Does the community feel like this is a turning point toward de-escalation?
There is a cautious optimism here right now. People don't want to be too hopeful given all of the perpetual trauma that this community has faced in the last 2 months. but I was actually right here at the scene, at this vigil, at this memorial last night when the news broke that federal agents were starting to get pulled, that Greg Bovino, the commander of the Border Patrol, is seemingly being replaced by Tom Homan. I talked to one St. Paul resident named Kim about if she's hopeful in this moment. I want you to hear what she told me last night.
I hope they do, but with the history of what we've seen and the fact that they've searched so many different types of people here, am I optimistic? Not particularly. Am I hopeful? I have some hope.
I guess I'll believe it when I see it. It would be great. I hope this will happen, but really some is a good start, but all is really what we need.
And you can hear the hesitation in those voices. People want to believe that things are getting better, but as the friend of Alex Pretti had just said, he said he'll believe it when he sees it. Anna?
Alex Tabbitt, thank you for your reporting live for us in Minneapolis. Jake, this seems to be a significant change in the president's approach after previously vowing the day of reckoning and retribution is coming. Now he's, sort of making nice with the governor and with the mayor. What's the message from the White House today? Could we see any other staffing changes in the near future?
Yeah, Anna, we are seeing quite the tonal shift from the president. Him, as we saw at the beginning of the show, speaking about this positive, fruitful conversation that he's had with the mayor of Minneapolis, with the governor of Minnesota, after for weeks and really months now, accusing those individuals of being the ones mainly responsible for some of the violence and what we've seen take place in Minneapolis over the past couple of weeks. But we are in real time learning about this meeting that took place yesterday between President Trump, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and her top aide, Corey Lewandowski. A White House official tells me that Noem requested the meeting, that her and the president and Lewandowski met for almost 2 full hours, and that was, of course, what is acting on. Another White House official tells me that the president has been frustrated and concerned with, of course, what happened, but also some of the initial reaction from some of his top senior White House officials, including Kristi Noem as well. This official caveated to me in terms of what we could see next in terms of potentially seeing a shift in leadership, that the president is fond of Noem, that she's not necessarily on the chopping block per se, but that this is a real tense moment, and she's really attempting to rise to the occasion here, which is why she requested that meeting. But overall, you're right. We are seeing this widely just clear shift in framing, talking about having an investigation, talking about unity. We rarely hear from the First Lady herself, Melania Trump, on really most political issues. She spoke on Fox and Friends earlier today talking about unity going forward. Take a listen to that.
We need to unify. I'm calling for unity. I know my husband, the president, had a great call yesterday with the governor and the mayor, and they're working together to make it peaceful and without riots.
I'll note too, Anna, as the president and the first lady call for peace and unity, he still has consistently criticized the leaders of that area and continue to point to fraud in the state as the main issue, despite what we're seeing take place.
Let's zoom in a little bit, Jake, on this new person that he's put in charge in Minnesota. That is Tom Homan, who had, one of the more cautious, immediate responses to Renee Good's death. But he previously has promised shock and awe on immigration-related actions. He's threatened to prosecute Democrats who stand in his way. Remind us of some of the more controversial positions Homan has taken. And is the expectation that Homan will do things differently than Greg Bovino?
Yeah, it's a great question, because as Homan's coming in, it's not necessarily that he's softer on immigration. Some of the things you mentioned, he's been very for family separations. He's been for deportations of non-criminals. He's also been for supporting certain zero tolerance policies and going after people in the workplace. So it's not necessarily that Homan has this record on immigration that is softer by any means. But I will note, and I think this is potentially some of the reason we're seeing him come in during this kind of PR crisis sort of a moment. During the initial fallout of the tragic killing of Renee Good, Homan was really the only senior White House official that at least at one point in time said, let's let the investigation play out. He wasn't quick to jump as we saw Stephen Miller do, as we saw Kristi Noem do. He had a bit more of an initial nuanced response to it. I think in this crisis kind of PR moment that the White House seems that they're having, for the president appointing Homan to go there, the idea is that he would, at least publicly facing, be softer in comparison to what we've seen from Bovino and some of the others over the past few days.
Veronica, does Homan have more credibility? Can he come in as the fixer?
I really doubt that. And the reason I doubt that is because the immigration laws and the authority that they give ICE and CBP is extreme. And so the only way to really fix this issue now is to fix those statutes allowing broad authority. This is authority that we may expect to see at the border. This is not authority that we should be seeing in the interior. And just recently, by policy, this administration stated that the Fourth Amendment no longer protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures inside their home and allowing DHS to enter homes without a warrant. And so I do not see that this is going to be much change. Everything that we're seeing indicates that this is going to continue. So I'm not very hopeful.
Chris, you have worked with DHS before. What is your take on this change in ground command?
Well, I think you've highlighted it, that, there's a little bit of an American crisis here if the solution that brings people a relief is sending Tom Homan in, somebody who still hasn't answered where the money that he took from an FBI undercover went. Certainly is he going to be better than Greg Bovino? Perhaps, but I think the damage has already been done. And listen, the crisis was created through rhetoric from the administration across the board that there was an immediacy to get surge troops out there, and Minneapolis was lawless. I will tell you, Minnesota as a whole is one of the nicest, safest places in the United States. And the partnerships traditionally between federal and local law enforcement are exceptional. When I spent a few years out there, my partner on the Joint Terrorism Task Force was a Minneapolis police detective. So they're used to working this together. The idea of immigration fraud being something that you need to deploy 3,000 ICE agents to fix is absurd. There was immigration fraud back there 20 years ago when I was there, and the FBI would work it in partnership with other agencies. There's not some new crisis that would authorize any of this to happen. And frankly, the militarization of DHS and Border Patrol and ICE in particular has played out in front of us. And I'm not quite sure Tom Homan is going to be able to put that monster back in the cage.
There are now 3 federal agencies involved in the investigation into Alex Pretti's death, and the one taking the lead is Homeland Security Investigations. They don't typically do criminal use of force investigations. Chris, what are your concerns that the FBI is only there in a supporting role? And what do you make of state investigators being back on the scene today?
Well, I mean, state investigators being back on the scene is certainly or likely a derivative of the calls between President Trump and the governor and the mayor. But to answer your first question, the FBI should have been in the lead from the beginning. Number one, the FBI has the authority to conduct such investigations. They have the credibility, the experience, and the capability to do it, and they would have done it in partnership with the Minneapolis Police Sheriff's Department and the state BCA. That is normal for the FBI. The FBI conducts thorough internal shooting investigations all the time. I've been part of those shooting investigation teams where you send dozens of agents and senior leadership out to pick apart any shooting that an agent's been involved in and prove it to be right. This is something that appears to be some kind of cover up, and now they're trying to backtrack from it a little bit. Yes, the FBI's involved, but under the leadership, and I use that term very loosely, of Kash Patel, they're certainly being blocked from doing what they would normally do. So agents who would absolutely do a thorough, unbiased investigation are not able to do that. And we saw it play out in the last attempt to run a civil rights investigation.
Major changes amid the federal crackdown here in Minnesota. Here's a look at the latest. The Trump administration will soon have a new point person on the ground here in Minnesota. Sources tell CBS News Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino has been reassigned, and Border Czar Tom Homan is arriving to the Twin Cities. Homan has decades of immigration enforcement experience. He also served in the Obama administration. President Trump, he met with Homan this morning. The two agreed on the need for an ongoing dialogue. Another main player in Operation Metro Surge is facing redirection. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was at the White House on Monday facing questions about her department's handling of Saturday's shooting. That's according to CBS News sources. Those sources also say Noem is facing anger from some inside her department over the public statements following the shooting. So far, she is expected to keep her job, but her focus will shift from interior enforcement operation to securing the southern border, among other priorities. Dozens more congressional Democrats have agreed to join as co-sponsors of legislation to impeach Noem. Another change, an open line of communication between the White House and Minnesota leaders. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump said Governor Tim Walz called him with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. Governor Walz's office described the call as productive and said the president agreed that he would talk to the Department of Homeland Security about ensuring the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is able to conduct an independent investigation, and said he agreed to look into reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey posted on X that he also spoke with the president. He says he appreciated the conversation and says the president agreed the current situation cannot continue. Frey is also expected to meet with Border Czar Tom Homan today. The news comes as countless people continue to pay their respects to Alex Pretti. His memorial, a constant flow of foot traffic all morning. That's where we find our Adam Duxter. Adam, what are people saying there today, especially given these changes?
Yeah, Reg, I can tell you one thing is that the cold has certainly not stopped anyone from coming out to 26th and Nicollet today to pay their respects. People from this community, but also people from around the world. I could even tell you standing here right now, we're sitting next to media members who are speaking in all different languages, symbolizing, again, this is the international attention right here on the Twin Cities. But as we do talk to people who are coming here to pay their respects, they are saying largely the same thing, which is that this cannot happen again here in Minneapolis. It can't happen again in the Twin Cities. People reiterating their concerns that 2 fatal shootings at the hands of federal agents is simply too many. It never should have come to this, is what many people are saying. But we're also hearing from people who have been very much plugged into the news that you just described over the course of the last couple of minutes. They've watched the news about Greg Bovino. They've watched the news about Homan coming in the open line between our local leaders and federal leaders. And they say that they are hopeful, they're encouraged, but they're still taking a little bit of time. They're not quite sure that they can relax just yet.
Last night when we saw the news, so it felt like there is some type of relief. We feel there is some hope.
That's hopefully a step in the right direction. But, we got a long ways to go. We got an administration, we got a president of the United States who I believe is ultimately responsible for this. And he needs to be held accountable.
And Reg, many people that we've talked to today say they're simply waiting to hear what Homan has to say. They want to hear from him directly, as they have been hearing from Noem and Bovino. They also want to hear from the mayor and from the governor to hear about how those calls went, maybe a little bit more in depth, but still the emotions pouring in, and people very much closely following the news of the last 24 hours from the federal and local government side. We'll have all the latest in the reaction coming up tonight on the news at 5.
Adam Dutcher live in South Minneapolis. Thank you, Adam. We've learned this morning the chief judge of the U.S. District Court of Minnesota has ordered the acting head of ICE to appear in his courtroom in person on Friday. Judge Patrick Slitz's orders comes in a case involving an Ecuadorian man who came to the U.S. illegally in 1999 when he was a minor. He was detained earlier this month and placed in immigration custody at Fort Snelling, Minnesota, according to court filings. Judge Slitzes wrote in a briefing that the Trump administration has failed to comply with dozens of court orders in recent weeks, which has resulted in significant hardship to immigrants who have been arrested and detained as part of Operation Metro Surge. The judge wants ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons to explain why he should not be held in contempt of court for violating an earlier order. The Department of Homeland Security is leading the investigation into the shooting death of Alex Pretti, but White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt revealed they aren't the only agency involved.
The Homeland Security investigations and the FBI have teamed up for an investigation. And there's also an internal CBP investigation, an internal review of what is happening on the ground in Minnesota.
Right now, a temporary restraining order is in place that bars DHS from destroying or altering evidence if Minnesota authorities has access to the federal investigation. They'll need a judge to extend that temporary restraining order right after the shooting, despite having a warrant. On Monday, attorneys argued how unprecedented it is for Homeland Security to be taking the lead instead of the FBI or state. That's a sentiment experts we spoke would agree on.
But anytime you're taking on something like a prosecution of a law enforcement officer, you do want to be as thorough as you possibly can. And the state's frustration is they're not allowed to be.
The order in place right now lasts 2 weeks, but as we said, the state wants that extended. Earlier today, we saw the BCA at the scene of Pretti's death processing the scene. We'll update you as we learn more on that. Meanwhile, we could be just days away from a ruling to halt the federal immigration crackdown entirely. The state of Minnesota and the Justice Department were in court Monday over a lawsuit to stop Operation Metro Surge. The DOJ says the operation needs to continue because of a lack of cooperation with Minnesota authorities, but the state argued it's dangerous, illegal, and unconstitutional political punishment. During yesterday's hearing, Judge Kate Menendez grilled the DOJ about a letter from Attorney General Pam Bondi to Governor Walz that said the operation would end if Minnesota met certain demands, including turning over voter data, other state records, and no longer supporting sanctuary policies. Judge Menendez ruled the DOJ must submit information about those demands by tomorrow morning. Friends, family, and community members are mourning the loss of Alex Pretti. His parents spoke to the Associated Press about what motivated their son to protest the federal crackdown. Take a listen.
He thought it was terrible. Kidnapping children, just grabbing people off the street. He cared about those people. And he knew it was wrong. So he did participate in protest.
He was an outdoorsman. He took his dog everywhere he went. He loved this country, but he hated what people were doing to it.
A growing memorial stands in the spot Pretti was killed. We have the latest from that memorial at the live desk, streaming on CBS News Minnesota. Maria Lizignoli joins us now. Maria, what are we hearing from those visiting the memorial?
Reg, there are a lot of different emotions as people gathered where Alex Pretti was killed by a Border Patrol agent. The spot has transformed into a space for community. All day Monday, people were seen stopping by Eat Street and paying their respects, some adding flowers, mementos, or even just pausing for a moment of silence or prayer. We spoke to mourners on how they're feeling in the wake of Pretti's killing.
A lot of frustration and anger, a lot of feelings of helplessness. No matter what we do, no matter how peacefully we protest, we're labeled as domestic terrorists and paid agitators when we're just, exercising our lawful right of assembly.
We also met a woman from Green Bay, Wisconsin, same as Pretti, who was at the memorial Monday. She brought a Packers jersey to the site as a way to pay her respects, saying she needed to bring something and that the jersey felt like the natural thing to do. Reg.
Thank you, Maria. A reminder, Maria has headlines and live updates each weekday morning on our 24/7 free streaming service, CBS News Minnesota. You'll find it on our website, Pluto TV, through the CBS News app, and on Roku TV.
All right, y'all. So I got one last final video that I am going to show for y'all. And I just want you to listen, and hear, because as we're seeing how things have been playing out, Yes, Bovino is out, and they have Tom coming in, Tom Homan. But we must not forget how people speak, what people think, how they move, and how they operate, and what their true feelings are. And so I want to go ahead and show y'all a speech. And this speech is from December 21st, 2025. And this is Tom Homan speaking on immigration at the 2025 AM Fest. And I want y'all to listen to what he said when he did that speech. And so for him to be taken over when it comes to immigration and immigration laws and being, the head of it and in charge of it, y'all let me know what y'all think based off of what y'all hear from the speech, how you think it's going to go down. Let's go ahead and get into it. And then after this, we will wrap up this live. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Phoenix, Arizona, how the hell you doing? Hey, look, let me start out by this. My boss is the greatest president in the history of this nation, Donald Trump. I love that guy. Look, let's talk about the most successful president in the history of this nation when it comes to border security, immigration enforcement. He promised the American people he would secure the border. And right now, today, as I'm standing here, we have the most secure border in the history of this country. I just returned. I was on the California border. I was on the Arizona border. I was on the Texas border just a few days ago. I spent 3 days on the surveillance at the northern border by plane, by boat, by four-wheel drive. 3 days on the border. I didn't see one illegal alien. None. I started in the Border Patrol in 1984. I've been around a long time. I'm an old guy. But I've never seen that. So it amazed me, even though I knew what the success level was. I just sat back with the CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott. I said, can you believe this shit? Not one illegal alien. Not one. Most secure border in history of the nation. President Trump made 3 promises to the American people when it comes to immigration. He would secure the border, he'd have a historic deportation operation, and he'd find kids that were smuggled into the country under Joe Biden, and they forgot about, they lost track of. So we got the most secure border in the history of the nation. There's a 95% decrease in illegal immigration. What does that mean? It means less women are being sexually assaulted making that journey. Less children are dying. Less fentanyl is getting into the country, killing Americans. Less known suspected terrorists are coming to the country. You know who's pissed off? The criminal cartels of Mexico, because they're going broke.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
President Trump is saving thousands of lives every month. With 95% less people coming, how many women ain't being raped? How many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl? It's a simple question. They want to say the Trump administration is inhumane. No, let me tell you what's inhumane. Inhumane is 250,000 people dying of fentanyl came across an open border. Inhumane is over 4,000 aliens dying making that journey. Inhumane is a record number, historic number of sex trafficking across that southern border. That's inhumane. President Trump is saving thousands of lives every month. Sex trafficking is way down. Smuggling is non-existent. American lives are being saved every day. Now let's talk about promise number 2 that he kept. The biggest deportation operation in history of this nation. In less than a year since President Trump's been in the Oval Office, we're in the year about 650,000 deportation, which blows any record out of the water. So he's already beat every record there when it comes to deportation. But we got nearly 2 million that left on their own because they knew ICE was out there looking for them. They decided to leave on their own. So record number of removals. Well, get this. While Pam Bondi is suing the Department of the sanctuary cities, once we beat the sanctuary cities, once we bring all 10,000 new agents on the ground, you ain't seen nothing yet. For those politicians, mayors, governors, members of Congress who compare ICE to the Nazis and to the Gestapo, you're disgusting. Threats against ICE officers up like 8,000%. Actual assaults are up like 1,400%. I want to remind everybody, the men and women of ICE, the men and women of Border Patrol, they're American patriots. They don't hang their heart on a hook when they go to work. They're enforcing the laws. Members of Congress, you don't like it, change the law. If they're a racist for enforcing the law, what's that make you? You wrote the law. So stop the crap, support the men and women of ICE, because if you don't, if the hateful rhetoric continues, there's going to be more bloodshed. I can't wait till next year. It's going to be incredible. 2 promises made, 2 promises kept. He promised a massive deportation operation. You got it, and we're continuing. Third promise. 500,000 children were smuggled into the country across that open border under Joe Biden. 500,000. They released them to unvetted sponsors. They lost track of about 300,000 kids. They didn't know where they were. They weren't looking for them. They didn't care. President Trump made a promise. We're going to do everything we can to find these kids. Thanks to the work of the FBI, DHS, and Homeland HHS, I'm proud to say we've already located 129,000 of these missing kids. 129,000 children that the last administration wasn't even looking for. Look, I'll be clear. Some of these children were safe with family, just hiding out. But many of these children were in sex trafficking, being sold to the sex trade. Many are in forced labor. God bless President Trump. He saved thousands of children. President Trump promised, and I'm going to keep that promise, we're going to run down every single lead of every single child. And when we're done with all those leads, we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. But here's the honest truth. Out of those 3 promises, I knew the children would be the hardest because it's hard to find them. We can find you. You got credit cards, you own a home, you got a car, you pay utility bills. You have a digital footprint. Children don't have that digital footprint. So we had to count on the digital footprint of the sponsors. Many of the sponsors weren't fingerprinted. Many of the address wasn't even verified. So when agents from the FBI and ICE go out there looking for them, many times these addresses are parking lots, supermarkets. But because of their dedication, because of their love for this president, because of their sacrifices they made to save these children, because they know a lot of them are living a life of hell every day. At least 14 of these kids already died. Despite all these obstacles, despite the Democratic politicians, despite the hate, for them to find 129,000 already is remarkable. I started as a Border Patrol agent in 1984. I've come out of retirement twice for this president. Thank you for doing that because my wife's still pissed off. I came back because I saw the traps. I woke up every day the last 4 years pissed off because I knew how many children died last night, how many women got sexually assaulted, how many Americans died last night from fentanyl. I knew when President Trump got back in the Oval Office, he would secure the border and by doing so save American lives. And not only that, save alien lives. And not only that, you got to remember, a strong border means strong national security. We have to know who's coming in, who's going out, all that thing. Well, let me end with this. My time is up. But let me end with this. To the men and women of ICE, to the men and women of the United States Border Patrol, I love each and every one of you. I will have your six until the day I die.
If you are hearing this prayer right now, know this: you are not here by accident.
Okay, y'all. So I just wanted to show y'all a little bit of that because context means everything. And so we're hearing all of these great big stories. Yeah, we're getting Bovino out. We're sending in Tom. Tom. Yeah. Tom, y'all just sat there and watched his speech. You heard what he said. You heard the almost happiness and satisfaction in his tone and his voice, saying the things that he was saying. Speaking about immigrants, illegal immigrants. Then the gaslighting of it all. The children that they say have so-called been rescued. I ain't seen none of them. I ain't heard none of them. I haven't heard the parents speak out. I haven't seen them on 60 Minutes. I haven't seen them do no interviews. I haven't seen them. Where are they? Oh, you rescue them and what? And then they be silenced after that? Because I feel like if you go through something like that as a child, you're rescued, a parent gets their child back that's rescued, that parent's going to want to speak out and talk about that experience. That child may speak out and talk about certain decisions that they probably made that they might feel like they shouldn't have done, and they wouldn't have ended up in that position. We would have heard stories about these kids now that have been found and set free. But again, I don't have any information on that, so I won't speak about it too heavily. It's just my thoughts and my feelings and my opinions. It's not factual, anything that I'm saying. But what I do know is factual is what we listen and what we hear with our ears and our eyes. And we watch that man sit up there, and we listen to that man sit up there and explain exactly how he feels about immigrants, not even just illegal immigrants, but immigrants, period, in this country. And that's not the only interview. That's just one speech that I showed y'all. Y'all go and search for yourselves and watch the interviews. Watch what he says. Watch how he feels and he thinks and he moves and he operates. And now we're asking ourselves, are we supposed to clap and cheerlead because they're taking Bovino out and putting Tom in? You ask the people of Minnesota how they feel, the people of Minneapolis how they feel. And if it's ever to come to your state and your city, ask yourself how you feel if someone like that shows up in your area. How will you move? How will you operate? Do you feel safe? We have to pay attention to what people say, y'all. Because people will tell you straight up how they feel, how they think, how they operate, all of those things. If you pay attention and you listen very close, you'll see exactly the character of a person and what they're about, what they believe in, and what they may want to do. And I'm sorry, I hear a person, I see a person like that man right there, speaking the way he speak, moving, operating the way he operate. I'm sorry, I just don't trust him being over DHS, ICE, at all. I don't think that's trading in one demon for the other. if you ask me. So you think he's going to do it better? I don't know. Has he turned his heart around? Has he had a change of heart? Did he have a come to Jesus moment? We can't be sure. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I typically don't like the chances, especially when it comes to something so serious as this. We're talking about lives being lost. Watching the news and these news reports and consecutive unalivings of people that don't deserve to be unalived. And nor do immigrants, illegal or legal. Nobody deserves this type of treatment. And do you think that this man here is going to bring forth anything different? There can be hope. Hope has to stay alive, and it always will stay alive. The hope is in the right source, not a person like a Tom, not a person like a Bovino. The hope is in us as the people standing beside each other, united, caring and looking out for one another. The hope is in us praying to whatever it is, higher power or God that we believe in. That is where the hope resides and will continue to reside. And that is what we bet on. That is what we utilize to get through the hardest times, times like this, things like this. So y'all, we have ran way over. Oh my God, we're approaching 3 hours. Let me go ahead. Per usual, y'all know I'm gonna end it with a bop. And I'm gonna get up out of here. I do have a live that's, I'm gonna prepare for a little bit later on this evening, maybe. If not, it might be tomorrow morning. But that's all I got for this one right here. But with all of these things that's going on, I know there's some people that's on the left. I know that there's some people that's on the right. I know that there's some people that's Republicans, and I know that there's some people that's Democrats. What I'm asking is, are we people that are people? Despite any of those titles and any of those things that we take on, those outward titles that we take on, there's one title that we can't erase. It's a title that we were born with, and it's called being a human being. And as we realize that we are human beings, no matter our race, no matter our gender, no matter our sexual preference, or any of those things, at the core, we are all the same. And our fundamental needs are always going to be the same. And if we can stick together and understand that, and work together with one another to fight for and speak up for those needs, those rights, maybe we can get a little bit further instead of fighting against each other and standing on opposite sides of the fence. Because apparently, for as long as that has been happening, it hasn't been helping us. That's all I'm starting to bear witness to and come to a conclusion of as I report on these videos, which is not always easy, but necessary. These conversations are necessary to show what is happening in the world. Yes, a lot of stuff is from my country, but I show some things sometimes worldwide in other countries as well. This is what is important for us to pay attention to and gravitate towards. And I know a lot of people don't like it. They shy away from it. They don't want to talk about it. But you have to. Because these are the things that change the structure and the dynamic of the lives that we live every day. And if we don't pay attention to what's going on around us in the world, and if we don't have empathy or care for anybody else, who are we? What are we? And where do we end up? Anyway, y'all, that's all I got on this live. I'll be back later with another one. I'm going to go ahead and end this out with a song. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up to participate in the live and support. Even if you was watching or listening from the bushes, I appreciate that as well. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. And I hope maybe something could have been learned here today. That's what I always hope for when I do these lives. Thank y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Yeah. They thought we were sleeping. Woke up! Woke up! Woke up! Wake up! One weekend, Noma lost a fox in the DHS. She was playing checkers while we're dealing with this mess. Last credit in the street, nurse with illegal heat. Hosted in the holster, but they killed them for the feet. Yeah, the surges hitting cities, call it metro, call it war. They're knocking down the Constitution on the bedroom door. Bleep is split. Massey screaming, what's the price? Noem's on the stand, yeah, she's skating on the ice. They stripped the bill, they removed the clause. No safety for the people, they're breaking all the laws. Crockett in the room, yeah, she's looking at the files. Comer's out of time, she's been waiting for the trial. We got boots on the earth, I'm moving through the mist. They want the total surge, we're coming with the fist. Boots on the ground, yeah, the narrative is dead. Trump firing the chiefs while the streets are seeing red. We got boots on the ground, moving through the mist. They want the total surge, we're coming with the fist. Boots on the ground, yeah, the narrative is dead. Trump firing the chiefs while the streets are seeing red. From our FBI senior, yeah, he dropped the bomb. Said bringing home an in is a crisis never calm. It's with the level Vino, yeah, he's heading for the gate. Ellison is smiling while the judge decides the fate. Not credible, they said, yeah, he lied under the oath, trying to occupy the city. Now we're seeing the growth of the resistance, the persistence. Two-way to the left, unlikely alleys fighting back against the state that spawns a death. Listen close, listen close, listen close, listen close. They removed the ban on deporting the citizens. They're current clearing for the bullets in the prisons. From Minneapolis to DC, the wall is falling down. They can't stop the movement when we're holding down the town. Got boots on the ground, moving through the mist. They want the total surge, we're coming with the fist. Boots on the ground, yeah, the narrative is dead. Trump firing the chiefs while the streets are seeing red. Lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down. The surge is crumbling. We see it. We see it all.
Roof above a shelter from the storm, a gentle hand to keep the spirit warm, a plate of food, a mind that's free to learn, a simple peace, a righteous wage to earn. These are the needs, the bedrock and the base, the sacred ground of the whole human race. But the screen is screaming, selling something cheap, while the real world babies cry themselves to leave. Story. choose. They magnify the hate, they celebrate the greed, and plant a poison, a suffocating weed. We gotta reach our children, pull them from the glow and show them a beauty that the media don't know. Yeah. Yo, check the vision, the mission of the television, spitting division in a mental prison. Got the youth chasing likes, addicted to the feed, ignoring the hunger, the fundamental need. They building paper idols on the digital stage, putting our future daughters in a virtual cage. Now we gotta break the cycle, gotta cut the cord. The real word is powerful, mightier than the sword. So we teach them about their history, teach them about their grace, teach them about the power in every single face. Let's go! We are human, ever be late. This is our story, this is our sacred song. In the eyes of the Creator, it's where we all belong. We are human, worth more than they can prize. Beyond the hateful whispers and the loaded knives. We are human, worth more than they can prize. Beyond the hateful whispers and the loaded a word of action breaking every chain, a word of power washing out the pain. It ain't a feeling, it's a verb, it's what you do for me, for them, for us, for you. It's the track, it's a call to action. For every mother, father, every single fraction of the community holding it down on the ground. Time to get loud, make a revolutionary sound. Look your child in the eye, tell them that they matter. Tell them their spirit's something that no lie can shatter. Tell them knowledge is the weapon, love is the shield, and the truth is the harvest we're gonna grow in this field. Yeah.